All right, we're going to work on the 8179 KT here. This is one of the biggest projects I've done in a long time. And I've had this tractor for years and never had a chance to work on it. So finally we're doing it. So this is really exciting to me. We've got a lot of footage, so I hope you guys really enjoy this. 8179 KTs over here. I take the engine and the back tires off of this one. Take the engine and back tires off of that one and swap them. And hopefully we can have a running tractor. So let's see what we got. I don't think I mentioned why we're doing this with the engines, but the tractor with the bad engine, or should I say, the tractor with the ag tires on the left has the bad engine. And I bought it last year for 50 bucks because I knew the rest of it was good and the transmission's good. The tractor on the right with the turf tires has a good engine. It's actually a replacement engine. It's not the original engine, so it's pretty new. But the transmission's broken, and literally the cast iron case cracked where the transmission mounts onto the frame, so you couldn't use it. So that's what we're doing here. That's why we're junking one and making the other work. All right, so the first step in swapping the engines was taking both the hitches off the tractors and unhooking all the cables and wires from the engines. Pretty much they were all unhooked on both of them already, so I don't need to really do anything there. So, and those tires aren't holding any air, so we're gonna have to work quick before the tires get down to the rims. And then we're gonna swap the good tires onto the bad tires over there. All right. Got 4 bolts to take out that hold the engine onto the transmission here. And of course they're in a tough spot to get to. But once I get them out, we should be ready to roll here. Probably be easier to take the wheels off and put the thing on jack stands or something, but I'm not doing that. Taking the bottoms off first. Now one more bolt here. I gotta be really careful when I take this off. I don't want the gear to fall into the transmission or the key or anything like that. So we gotta make sure we pull this engine straight back. All right, the bolt's coming out. I don't see any separation here on the tractor, so might have to give it a little wiggle. Yep, there we go. All right, now, gotta be super careful here. I slide it straight out. Got it. I happened to get lucky and the crankshaft was up, so the key was on the top. All right, let's get this out. Cool. Now I'm gonna get my Harbor Freight dolly, put this engine on that dolly. Let's see. Weighs nothing compared to an Onan. All right, this is the burnt out junk engine. Let's get that out of the way. Cool. Well, we're halfway home. Looking good. This is the last bolt for this side. All right, engine's already separating from the transmission. Okay, it's unbolted now. Let's see if we can get this one out. Yes, got it. Oof. All right, score. Didn't drop the gear in this one either. This one's all covered with blue RTV up here. This is a replacement engine here that someone put in this tractor at some point. The guy I got it from years ago told me that it had a Series 1 KT in it, and this is a Series 2. So I think this engine is a lot newer than the one that's in the other tractor. And this one I think has a little bit different of a bearing plate. The bolts are longer that held it on, so we're going to use the bolts from it. I'm going to swap the gear from the other engine onto this one. What we'll do is we'll measure the distance that the gear was from the adapter plate and make sure they're the same on both engines. Or sorry, we'll make sure that that the new engine has the same length as the old one, just so we can be 100% certain that it has the right mesh with the transmission. So yeah, that's about it. Oh, it's gonna fall. I'm just gonna leave it right here for now, because I really feel like it's gonna fall off of here. Lower this down a little bit. There we go, that's better. We'll get something to measure it with. Here's how we're going to measure it. Just took this little carpenter square here and set it to the depth of where that gear is. We'll put a square up against the bearing plate or adapter plate. You notice that this plate here is more of a rectangle shape, and it's not as thick as the new one. Let's check out the new one over here. The new one here is probably at least twice to 3 times as thick as the old one. And if I put this on here, we're all good. So we should be good to go. So what I'm going to do is pop this gear off and put the gear from the other one on this one. And taking the gear off is not a big deal. You just literally pull it off. Bam, done. Now let's put this up here and let's pull this gear off of this one. Okay. Let's come over here and slide this gear onto this one. Line up my key on the bottom, and then I'll put my gauge on there, and we're still good. So I'm actually going to turn the flywheel 180 degrees so the key is on the top and not on the bottom. And I'm going to clean up that surface on there really good so I can put some new, RTV in there. I don't even think you need that. I don't understand why they put that on there, to be honest with you. The way that these things work is that pretty much there's an O-ring right here. You see that O-ring? that O-ring creates the seal into this big hole there in the transmission, and then that's the only place that oil would come out. I guess you could have oil come out on the top here on the PTO shaft, but again, there's a, you know, probably a reason they put this on here. But again, this one over here doesn't have anything. And I've taken a couple apart, none of them had it. I suppose that if you put the RTV in there, it could jack it out a little bit from the tolerance it's supposed to be, and it could make it not fit right with the gear mesh. So I don't know, I'm torn about this. So let's finish it up. All right, so I got the O-rings, new O-rings to put on this thing. I think we're all set to go here. One O-ring goes around the PTO shaft and the other goes around the input gear off the crankshaft. So let's put them on. This PTO shaft, or sorry, crankshaft O-ring on. Shouldn't be a big deal. I got these on eBay a couple of years ago when I first was working on this project. I knew someday I'd get to it, so that one will go on there. Now this top hole here is different than the other one. The other one is round, and this one is like elongated, which is kind of weird. So I don't know how well this is going to work in there, but we'll give it a shot. So this O-ring here basically just goes in here around the edge of this bearing. And I tore the old one out. It was all dried up and shriveled up and whatnot. So, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. Now, we got to slide that engine in here, see what happens. I'm contemplating whether I should put some lubricant on here, or ATV sealant on here, and I'm thinking I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna let it be the way it was. I'm still on the fence about that. I might have to phone a friend, as they say, before I put it back together here and see what a friend would do who's done this a lot more times than me. All right, so I phoned a friend, as they say, and someone that I trust his opinion very high, and he does top quality work, so I trust it a lot. And what he said is that he's done it both ways, with the sealant and without the sealant. Given that the engine I'm putting on had the sealant, I'm going to go with putting a little bit of sealant on. So he said he just put a little thin smear around both the openings. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully that's the right choice. So let's get this thing back together.